The world knows Kim Kardashian as a reality star, a billionaire entrepreneur, a fashion icon, and one of the most influential figures on the planet. But very few people truly understand the battle she has been fighting behind the cameras, a battle far more intense than any red carpet appearance or social media headline. This is the story of how Kim Kardashian stepped into one of the toughest, most unforgiving arenas in the world, the legal system. A world where money, fame, and influence mean almost nothing, and where every exam, every statement, and every decision can determine whether you rise or get torn apart completely. Her mission wasn't a publicity act, it wasn't a hobby, and it wasn't a temporary obsession. This was personal. This was about family, this was about redemption, and this was about rewriting her legacy. Today, you're going to learn the full, raw, unfiltered story behind Kim Kardashian's legal journey. Every struggle, every criticism, every failure, and every step she took to get closer to becoming a lawyer. A journey that surprised the entire legal community, confused the entertainment world, and inspired millions of people who never expected Kim Kardashian to be the face of a modern justice reform movement. So let's dive deep. Deeper than any interview, any magazine article, or any viral discussion online, into the truth behind Kim's future as a lawyer and where she stands today.
Growing up, Kim Kardashian wasn't just surrounded by pop culture and celebrities. She grew up in a household built on law, order, structure, and consequence. Her father, Robert Kardashian, the man who once stood at the center of the most controversial court case in American history, wasn't just a high-profile lawyer. He was a thinker, a strategist, a man who believed that the law wasn't just a profession, but a responsibility. Kim admired him in ways she never fully understood as a child. The late-night calls, the folders stacked in his office, the quiet conversations behind closed doors, the intense pressure of representing one of his closest friends. These moments shaped her without her even realizing it. While the rest of the world remembers Robert Kardashian for the courtroom he stood in, Kim remembers him for the discipline he instilled, the values he protected, and the commitment he lived by. And all of this, every early memory, would eventually shape the unexpected path she would take decades later. But at the time, Kim wasn't thinking about law school. She wasn't dreaming of exams or legal briefs. Her life was moving toward entertainment, fashion, and business. The journey toward justice reform wouldn't begin until many years later, triggered by a single case that changed everything.
Kim Kardashian's transformation didn't begin with books or lectures. It began with a human story, one that moved her emotionally in a way nothing else ever had. A woman named Alice Marie Johnson, a grandmother, a non-violent offender, a woman who had spent decades in prison for a crime that countless people today would receive a fraction of the sentence for. Kim didn't know it at the time, but this case would be the ignition switch for everything that came next. When she first read Alice's story, it wasn't just injustice she saw. It was a broken system. A system that punished people inconsistently. A system that desperately needed change. For the first time, Kim felt something familiar, something she had only felt watching her father work. A calling. She didn't just want to post about it. She didn't just want to raise awareness. She wanted to take action. Her team tried to warn her. Her friends asked if she really wanted to step into something this heavy. The entertainment world didn't understand what she was trying to do. But Kim didn't hesitate. She went straight to the source, met with advocates, studied the case, learned the legal details, and pushed with everything she had until Alice Johnson walked free. And that moment, the moment she saw Alice reunited with her family, did something to Kim that changed the trajectory of her life forever. For the first time since her father's death, she felt connected to a higher purpose. And that purpose demanded something of her. If she wanted to fight cases like this, she needed the knowledge, she needed the training, she needed the law. That was the beginning of the biggest challenge of her career.
Most people don't understand what it means to become a lawyer, especially through the route Kim chose. She didn't take the typical 4-year law school path. Instead, Kim entered what's known as the apprenticeship path, also called reading the law, which exists in only a handful of states. It's a path very few people choose because it's harder, more intense, more demanding. You have no campus, no professors, no classmates, no structured curriculum. It's you, your mentor, and the books. And on top of that, the state she was in requires something even more brutal, the baby bar, a test so difficult that even regular law students sometimes fail it, and apprentices historically struggle with it at a staggering rate. Most people outside the legal world have no idea how intense this exam is. 3 subjects, 4 essays, multiple choice questions that feel like they're written specifically to confuse you, a curve so sharp that even students with high scores can still fail. For Kim, this wasn't just an academic challenge. It was the entire world watching her. Millions of people waiting for her to succeed and millions waiting for her to fail. She was studying 6 hours a day, taking practice tests, reading thousands of pages, balancing it all with filming, parenting, businesses, and nonstop media pressure. And then the results came.
Kim didn't pass the baby bar on her first attempt, or her second. Each time she had to face not just the disappointment of the results, but headlines across the entire internet mocking her. People who had never opened a law book in their lives suddenly felt qualified to judge her intelligence. Why is she even trying? This is just for attention. She'll never be a real lawyer. But what most people didn't know was that Kim's determination went far beyond an exam score. She had made a promise to herself, a promise to her father's memory, a promise to the people whose lives depended on legal reform. And she wasn't going to walk away from that promise. So she went back to studying, harder, smarter, with more focus than ever. And then, on the attempt the world least expected her to pass, she did it. The baby bar was behind her. And for the first time, the legal world began to take notice. She wasn't playing around. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't just dabbling. Kim Kardashian was truly becoming a future lawyer.
Passing the baby bar wasn't the end. It was the beginning of an even more demanding phase. Kim began working on actual legal cases with real stakes, people whose freedom depended on strategy, precision, and a deep understanding of the law. She wasn't just signing documents. She wasn't just lending her face to campaigns. Kim was in the meetings, in the conversations, in the strategy sessions. She studied case law. She learned sentencing guidelines. She analyzed evidence. She listened to families. She collaborated with lawyers who had decades of experience. Her work contributed to multiple successful commutations and releases. For the first time, even her most vocal critics began to admit she wasn't faking it, she wasn't pretending. She was doing the real work, and she was doing it well.
But with every step forward, the pressure grew. Kim was no longer being judged as just a celebrity, she was being judged as a future lawyer. The media watched her every move. People questioned her motivations. Some lawyers doubted she could handle the complexity of the field. Others accused her of taking shortcuts. But what most people didn't realize is that Kim's path was actually harder than the traditional route. She was studying without the structure of a school system, without the support of a campus, without a legal community surrounding her every day. She was doing it on her own, privately, quietly, relentlessly. And she was doing it while managing a lifestyle that would overwhelm almost anyone else. But she didn't break. She didn't slow down, and she didn't stop. Because for Kim, the goal was bigger than passing tests or proving critics wrong. Her goal was to transform a system that millions of people depend on, a system filled with cracks, inequalities, and outdated laws. And she wasn't just learning the law, she was learning how to use it.
Today, Kim Kardashian is in the advanced stages of her legal apprenticeship. She has completed years of supervised study, she guides advocacy teams, she participates in legal arguments, she researches legal precedents, she's involved in criminal justice reform on a national level. Her path to the full bar exam is closer than ever, And while she still has hurdles ahead, including the final bar, which is one of the hardest professional exams in America, her progress has already changed the way millions of people view her. She is no longer just a celebrity, no longer just an entrepreneur, no longer just a media figure. She is a legal force in training, one who has already helped save real people with real consequences. And the movement she has created has shaped public awareness in a way that most lawyers never achieve.
So what does the future look like? Will Kim pass the full bar exam? Will she walk into a courtroom as an attorney? Will she argue real cases before a judge? If her journey so far tells us anything, it's this: she doesn't quit, she doesn't give up, and when she chooses a purpose, she commits with everything she has. Kim Kardashian's legal journey is far from over, but one thing is absolutely certain: she has already rewritten her legacy. She has already changed lives, and she has already proved that determination, discipline, and purpose can transform even the most unexpected person into a powerful agent of change. Her father once fought for justice in one of the most watched trials in history. And now, years later, his daughter is walking down her own path, one forged by courage, resilience, and a deep belief that everyone deserves fairness. Kim Kardashian didn't just decide to become a lawyer. She decided to become something bigger, a voice for people who can't always speak for themselves. And whether the world expected it or not, she's doing exactly that.